Hello and welcome to part 2 of my video series covering how to create Wwise plugins from PD patches using the Heavy compiler. In our last video, we ended up here with our PD patch in a folder along with 3 folders that contain the code that was compiled using the Heavy compiler. However, a couple of you wrote to me saying that we still weren't able to use the Pure Data patch as a Wwise plugin, and that is true, and that is because in part 1 of this series, we only dealt with compiling the C code for the plugin, and I did not cover how to build the actual binaries which you need in order to make this patch work in Wwise. So in this video, that's what we're going to cover. So let's talk about the requirements for this video, which we will jump right into downloading. The first requirement that you're going to need is Visual Studio 2015. And then you are also going to need Wwise version 2017.2.2.6553. I can't stress to you enough how important it is that you use these exact versions of the software. If you try to use other versions of the software and try to follow this video, you're going to run into problems. That being said, let's go ahead and get started and download Visual Studio 2015. Okay, when you follow the link at the bottom of this video to download Visual Studio 2015, you are going to be brought to this page. And what I'd like you to do is over here on the left, go ahead and click on this checkbox for Visual Studio 2015 Update 3. And then you're going to go here and download Visual Studio Community 2015 with Update 3. Go ahead and click Download. And then down here in the bottom left of your browser, you can go ahead and click on that button to start the setup. All right, I'll just bring this window over here so you can see what's going on my machine. All right, so it's going to ask you to choose the type of installation. Go ahead and click Default. That's fine enough to work for now. Click Install, and Visual Studio will install on your machine. Now that we're done installing Visual Studio, you will notice that that is a very large download, so just to forewarn you, I sped up the video, of course, for my download, but the download generally takes probably about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so now that Visual Studio is installed, let's go ahead and move on and install Wwise. Once you click on the link below this video in order to download Wwise, you're going to be taken to this page. You're going to be taken to this page in which you can download the Wwise launcher, and everything that we need for Wwise can be downloaded through the Wwise launcher. So go ahead and click on this Download Wwise Launcher button and download that. And once you do and you open up the Wwise launcher, you're going to be presented with something like this. Up here at the top, we have different tabs. Go ahead and click on the Wwise tab. Now, I already have some versions installed here. Don't pay any attention to those. We want to download a very specific version. So under Install New Version, go here to this latest drop-down, click on All, and then come down to 2017.2, and you're going to pick 2017.2.2.6553, and then click on the Install button. So it's very important on the next screen that under Packages that you select the SDK C++ option. Next, on deployment platforms, you're going to want to pick probably Apple and Microsoft. And these are going to be the platforms that you will be building for. So if you're going to be building for an Apple product, an Android product, Microsoft product, whatever, you're going to pick the appropriate platform here on the right hand side and then click Next. And on the next screen, you're going to be able to choose any plugins that you want to be associated with your Wwise install. We don't need any of these, and we can always download them later if we need them. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck all of these and then click on the, you can't really see it down here, but there is a install button. Go ahead and click on the install button, and then we wait for this to install. Now this install is going to take a little bit also because it has to download the entire SDK, which is a very large download. So just be patient when you're downloading Wwise. Okay, now that we have Microsoft Visual Studio and we have Wwise installed, we can go ahead and move on to the portion in which we build our Wwise plugin. So if you remember from our last video, we ended the video by putting a command, by putting in a script into a command prompt that looked something like this. And when we did so, it generated our, these three folders in the same folder as the patch that we're building. Well, now what we're going to do in order to create the Wwise plugin code that we need is we're going to modify this command a little bit. So if you go to the heavy GitHub, and you can find the link at the bottom below this video, basically it takes you to the GitHub page for the heavy compiler. And on this page, you're going to be able to find all the different, you're going to be able to find documentation on the usage of the heavy compiler. And it gives you things, it gives you commands to add to your script like -o or -n or -g, which will enable your script to do other things besides just compile the C code for your pure data patch. We are going to add a -n or a -n parameter and a -g generator in order to give our patch, our plugin, a name, a specific name, and in order to add the Wwise specifier so that we get the Wwise plugin. So what we want to do is in our notepad, hopefully you have a notepad in which you're saving your scripts. I'm going to go ahead and copy this script out. And I'm going to go ahead and just add a -n. And what we want to do after adding the -n is specify the name that we want to give to this plugin. So I'm just going to give it the name Simple Wind. And then when we want the heavy compiler to output the Wwise code that we will later build into the Wwise plugin, we add a -g for generator and then just add the term Wwise. And if you're asking, Derek, where did you get that? Well, I got that from going here to the GitHub site, and this gives you the list of available generator options. So C, Bella Fabric, JavaScript, PDXT, Unity, VST2, and Wwise. For example, these are the only ones available. So I can't just put anything willy-nilly after the G. I specifically put in Wwise. So let's go back to our script. And if you remember, we need to input this in the command prompt, in a command prompt that is pointing to the directory where our HVCC Python program is. So let's go ahead and open up our HVCC master folder. And then up here in the navigation bar, just go ahead and click inside of it and then type in CMD. And that's going to open up a command prompt right here, as you can see, that is already pointing towards the folder or inside of the folder where our hvcc.py file lives. Now we want to copy from our notepad. This is the way that I like to work. You could type it in the command prompt if you like. Go ahead and paste. And before I hit enter, I'm going to open up my the folder where my plugin lives, where my pure data patch lives, so that I can see if the Wwise plugin pops up in there. So in my command prompt, I'm going to go ahead and click enter to run the script. And you'll see here the Wwise folder popped up. So this contains the code that we need in order to build our Wwise plugin. And our next step to doing that can be found in the same website, on the GitHub website. So on the GitHub website, if we go to, let's see. So on the GitHub website, if we scroll down here to documentation and we click on Wwise, the information that we want is down here at the bottom. This is all good information, by the way. But down here, we want this compiling the plugin script, or we want this compiling the plugin section, and we are compiling, or at least I'm compiling in this video for Windows, but they have compiling for Mac, iOS, Linux, etc. We want down here it says a Visual Studio 2015 project exists in the Unity VS 2015 directory, and the plugin may be built manually. So here is the code that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this from this code block here, and I'm going to put it in our notepad. So what does it look like we're working with here? So what does it look like we're working with here in this code? The first line is just changing the directory to where that Visual Studio 2015 folder lives. So if I open up the window to my main PD patch and go in here to the Wwise folder, you'll see here that there's a VS 2015 directory. So that's where this first line wants me to point my command prompt to. Okay, so I first have to change to that directory, and then I have to run this script. And if I analyze it, it says it basically points to this particular executable on my machine. Okay, I'm just going to trust that it's there. Gives me a configuration property, platform, but then right here it looks like it's pointing towards a solution inside of that directory. So we're going to need to change the name of this to whatever our solution is named. And if I go into the VS 2015 folder, you'll see here is my solution. It has the suffix .sln, but mine is called HV_SimpleWind_Wwise source plugin, whereas in this script it says HV_heavy_Wwise source plugin. So what I'm going to do is just copy this name and then come in here to this script, and after rebuild I'm going to paste my name in there, and you'll see this is the name that we gave after the -n specifier or parameter. Okay, so we know how to get to the directory of our VS 2015 folder, right? We just have to come into the folder, and then in the navigation bar type in cmd, and that's going to open up a command prompt that is pointing to that folder, right? And then we run this Visual Studio script, which will build our binaries. You don't need this $, by the way. Okay, and then I open up my command prompt. I copy that. I open up my command prompt that's pointing to the right spot, and just hit Control V and hit Enter. And it's going to run through the script here. It's going to build your binaries. And as long as you don't see any red text and we don't get any errors, and we want this right here, build succeeded. All right, fantastic. Time elapsed, 9 seconds. 3 warnings. Warnings aren't a big deal. What we don't want to see are errors. Now, how do we confirm whether or not this worked? Well, we come back in here to our folder under our main PD patch, the Wwise folder, and we look in here at this build folder, and it will go build when x64 release, and what we want to see is this DLL and this XML right here. These are our this is our magic formula for making a Wwise plugin happen. So now we have the files we need, we have the binaries we need. All we have to do is install them in Wwise, and we're going to do that next. Okay, so we're ready to install our plugin into Wwise, and you're going to find that information in the Wwise section of the heavy GitHub documentation. Come down here to authoring plugin installation, and here we're going to find Windows authoring 64-bit, which is what I'm working in. It says take the following files found in the Wwise Win64 target. Okay, what's our Wwise what is our Wwise Win64 target? Well, we come in here. Let's see, I'm just going to save this. I'm going to get rid of this. Come into our Simple Wind folder, and we go into our Wwise folder, and we go to build Win x64. This is our target, right? Under release, let's see, it's asking for HV patch name Wwise source authoring plugin. the DLL and the XML. So here we have the two files that it's talking about, and it's asking us to place them in the following location. All right, so I'm going to open up a File Explorer window, and I'm going to navigate to my C drive. Let's see, let's get the whole path here. Audio Kinetic Wwise version, okay, so x86, Audio Kinetic. And then the Wwise version that we're working with. This should be the only Wwise version that you have, 2017.2.2.6553. And then it asks us to go into authoring. Move this window. x64 release bin plugins. It asks us to place them in this folder. Okay, so I open up my window here, my release window, and I move the DLL and the XML in there, or I can simply right click, copy, and paste them. I can paste them into this folder. So I'm going to right click in here and just click paste, and you can see that my DLL and my XML have been pasted into the specified directory. Don't pay any attention to this version, okay? Pay attention to the version that I gave you earlier in this video. Okay, now what we want to do is open up the Wwise launcher and click on the Wwise tab up at the top of the Wwise launcher, and then let's go ahead and click on the Launch Wwise button next to the 2017.2.2.6553 version and open up Wwise. Click Accept when you're asked to accept the agreement, and then go ahead and click on a new project. And let's just call this, for now, I'm just going to call this Test Project. I'm just opening up this project so I can test whether or not my plugin has been properly installed. And if you have any plugin options down here that it's asking if you want to add to the project, I'm just going to unclick or uncheck all of them, and then I'm going to click OK. And it's going to tell you that no valid license key is found and you're going to be restricted to only 200 objects. That's fine. We're not worried about that. Up here in the Audio tab in the Actor Mixer hierarchy, go ahead and click on the default work unit and then click Create New Sound SFX. And I'm going to call this Simple Wind after the name of our plugin, right? And it's going to be red because it has no source. So what we want to do is add a source. So here in the Simple Wind Contents Editor, I'm going to click on the Add Source button, and you're going to see here you should see in this list your plugin, whatever it is that you named it. I named mine Simple Wind, so I see it here, okay? If you don't see it, it means that there was a step missed in the process, either from part 1 of this video series or in this video. Something wasn't right. Maybe you didn't build it correctly. But if you do see it here, great job. It means that so far you've been successful in setting up this plugin. And let's go ahead and click on the plugin and install it as a source. All right, so in order to hear whether or not our Simple Wind or our plugin is working, all we have to do is hit play on this transport control, but this particular plugin is very loud, so before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and take the volume down to about -12 and then click play. And you can still hear it's still extremely loud, but we know that it's working. So now we have our plugin working. We know how to build the binaries from the C code and how to get those binaries into Wwise and have our source plugin function correctly. All right, so some of you might be saying, okay, Derek, that's all well and good, but we're well into Wwise 2018 now, and I want to build my plugin for a version other than this 2017.2.2. blah, blah, blah. I understand that. And luckily, it says here in the Wwise documentation on the Heavy GitHub site that the default is currently 2017.2.2. However, if it's necessary to link against a different Wwise SDK, change the value of the Wwise SDK version in the C2 Wwise generator found here. So what we have to do is first make sure that we have the right SDK version for whatever we want to change it to. And then if I click on this link, it shows me right up here at the top on line 58 an area where the Wwise SDK version is defined. So what we have to do is find the c2wwise.py code and go to line 58 and then change that definition if we want to change what version of Wwise that we're using. And we can find that in the HVCC folder, generators, c2wwise, c2wwise.py. So if I go to the HVCC master folder, click on generators, go to c2wwise, there's the c2wwise.py folder right there. And I can right click and select open with PyCharm, which we downloaded in the last video. And sure enough, if I scroll down to line 58, here is our Wwise SDK version definition. And I can change this to 2018 point whatever I want. You can see down here in the video, the SDK version that I have, the latest version I have, is 2018.1.1.6727. It has to match this version or this number exactly. It can't just match 3 of the numbers. It has to match all of them. So I can, for example, copy this, go back into the code, and change the definition if I want to. Okay, so that's how you change what Wwise version you're building for. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or leave a comment on the videos. And thank you for watching, and good luck.